This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey everybody, Larry Bailey here with Mortgage Workflow Partners. It is 1 o'clock Eastern on November 9th, 2023, and we are here together with Mortgage.community, and we're talking all things about mastering Encompass as an admin. Today's topic is going to be all about custom fields, and as everybody's rolling in, thank you very much. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I'd love to know who is taking down all their Halloween and going straight to Christmas, because that's what's happening in my house. I don't know if that's happening in your house. I think the whole idea of fall decorating really is tied to Halloween, I guess. Jolene's like, no. Angela's like, yes. So there'll be a Christmas tree somewhere back here, probably over this weekend. Katie does Thanksgiving decorations. Totally respect that. But yeah. Rob, I'm with you on the large turkey blow up. I think those are cool. I know. Chris, it's happening. It's happening in my house. So don't be surprised. Apparently that topiary thing is going to have to go away sometime soon for a Christmas tree. Anyway, guys, thanks always for coming to this event Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've been trying to do something new for the rest of this year, which is to keep Tuesday all about, that's at 4 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday's all about people doing their jobs, and Thursday's all about settings. So we had a great conversation in the community recently about some business rules and some settings. Luba, I think Luba's on here. Luba, if you're on here, you're not on here. So kudos. How are you? I thought I saw you. Nope. So Luba, thanks very much for that code. I'm going to post the code that I used with Luba's little snip there that she sent over in the community. I'm working on a doc expiration document, and I lost my business rules for that. So thank you, Luba, for putting that business rule out there. I spun that up into the document expiration form for a client project, and I'll be sharing that with the community. So if you're looking for a solid document expiration input form, and this can help you. It's a single business rule running all, 80 fields or whatever. So it layers up really easily, which kind of leads us right into custom fields because it is all about what do you use custom fields for. I'm going to talk a little bit about the CUST fields and my opinions on those. We're going to talk about the different formatting options. The Bible of Loan Custom Field Calcs, which is the PDF. Hopefully everybody's got that. And if you don't have it, you need it. The concept of layering, and then the concept of using custom fields to really grab in data from multiple 1003 sets. So if you're watching this on replay, get over to Mortgage.community and check out all the fun stuff on custom fields. So quick show of hands, how many people have seen the field analyzer work? And the reason why I'm asking is because when it comes to custom fields, you got to know what you have in order to know what you can do. I'm going to go ahead and share screen with you. And so when I worked with ATI to build this thing, it basically was sitting on the shelf, and I said, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's just a field analyzer. I'm like, yeah, guys, let's do something with this. So I worked with ATI to basically build this thing out pretty deep. And the reason why this is important is because on field, you can see I have in my environment, I have 9,123 custom fields. Now, like anything else, it's really not about the custom fields. It's all about the custom calc fields, because you really don't, it really doesn't matter if they are custom. What really matters is if they are custom calc. And the reason why this is because every time you create a file, unless you turned off the admin settings, it's going to run your custom field calcs. Every time you loan and possibly exit, depending on what's happening, it's going to rerun those calc fields. So part of this conversation is about that. And if we go over into settings, this environment happens to have 3,900 custom fields. You can see if there's a bunch of custom calc fields in here. And I want to talk first about the CUST fields. This is the second environment I've seen this year, at least. Actually, there's none there. So this only has 99. Never mind. There's only one other environment I've worked with this year so far that actually used all 100 CUST fields. Is anybody else like this, where you're using a ton of CUST fields in your admin? And the reason why I have concerns over this is because the CUST fields are not true custom fields. And I proved this because in TPO, so for those that are working with TPO, I've shared this directly, but just so it's in this recording, if you have, because they're used Encompass since Contour. So Candace, if you've been using Encompass since Contour, you've got the CUST fields maxed out because that's all you had back in the day. But where I was leading in this was the CUST fields are basically a virtual standard field. In essence, they exist, but Encompass has to figure out what they are based upon the input. So in English, you have to still fill out the formatting and things like that. So Encompass isn't necessarily doing anything extra other than it's a standard field. It's a custom field wrapped in the skin of a standard field. Why is this important? This is important because from a business rule perspective, I've found the CUST fields to not always be reliable. So I usually tend to never use a CUST field for anything. So if you're ever, like what you see on screen here, if you are finding inconsistencies with your business rules or your user experience, and the experience that you're expecting is tied to a CUST field, my suggestion is change it from a CUST to a CX, and then retest or leave it run for a little bit and see if you still have the same instability. My expectation is you won't. So I don't know if anybody's had that problem before. If you want to talk through it or not, if you want to disagree with me, it's totally fine. But that's been my experience. Now, the good news is I found a really good use, hands down, for the CUST fields, and that's on TPO Connect. So in TPO Connect, as well as EPC, this is also ironically good for web stuff to use these fields that have been around since Contour, Candace, of all things. So the CUST fields, because they're standard fields, even though you can customize them, these are the best way to use on TPOC for your custom ribbon header. So I think I shared this with Katie, with you and Amy, that this is a way you can put custom fields into your ribbon, your customized ribbon on TPOC. You can also do the same thing with easily with Encompass on the web, same kind of a thing. If you're having trouble with a custom field not displaying because of technology resource limitations, you can use a CUST wrapper. So Candace, if you're using that and you wanted to use custom fields like with Emporium, Beth, I don't know if Beth is on here, but we're helping Beth get TPOC launched this month. Get over to Emporium, TPO.com. If you're into non-QM lending, you got to check out Emporium. Just because I said so. But anyway, that's where you can use it, Candace. So check it out, or anybody else that's using TPO Connect, TPOC, and you want a custom field on the ribbon. That's the way you do it. And I figured that out, and I shared that with ICE, and I've shared that with everybody else. Now you know too. Chris says, if you copy a CUST field value into a CX just because it might be easier than changing the rules, would that be better? No. Now, Chris, this is only important if you're having reliability issues. If you're having reliability issues, you don't wrap in the problem even deeper into your problem. Get the hell out. Candace says, we don't use TPO, but we do have the banner. I have one area, that ribbon, that could use this trick. Cool. Please use it, Candace, and let us know how you make out. Send me a screenshot. I'd love to hear that. So yeah, Chris, I would say and anybody else, if you've been kind of digging around at your problems and you've got CUSTs involved in there, definitely check it out. Next thing I want to talk about was formatting. And I know this might sound rudimentary, but I'm telling you, I find these problems all the time. I showed Alex, who's one of our admins in training on the Mortgage Workflow Partners support team. She's learning how to be an independent project manager. And I showed her today that, the formatting of a custom field is everything. So hopefully you've got a field lookup tool in your Encompass. And anytime you're doing business rules, make sure that you understand what format you're working with on your source field and your destination field. So if you haven't looked at this recently, nothing's changed. The formatting is what it is. I just want to really call out the formatting because I find a lot of people, when they work with custom fields, they don't take the time to look at the format. And when you don't take the time to look at the format, you could write code or have another interface write code, and it fails because you can't translate information across different formats. So just food for thought, just a reminder, Encompass will not tell you if the format of the data will fit into the format of the custom field. It'll just give you a runtime error or exception, which you can find in your JIT logs or your full diagnostic log. But who does that, right? So I would just to call back to formatting on that end. Does anybody have any cool stories that they either want to share, on stage or in chat? I'll read it for you. But really cool stories of layering in custom field calcs into your custom field. So I think the largest custom field calc I ever saw was over 1,000 lines of code. Completely insane situation, but 5,000, Brian. So Brian says he worked at a place that had string fields. Oh, string field is fine. So you can actually take a string field 99,000 characters, right? So if I do this as a string and I did this as 99,000 characters, I do that all day long for logs. Now the reporting database, well, I don't know about wasteful, and let's debate this. Let me know if you want to come on stage and talk through it. So the idea is that, because this is a good debate, right? What's the max number of characters that a field should be if it's a string? And my answer is always it needs to be as long as it needs to be. But, and I'm interested, Brian, so here's my perspective on it, and please let the conversation fly. Like, everybody's opinion is important. At 99,000, it's a blob, not a string. But what if it is a log? Not a blob, Candace, but a log. What if it's a log in the file of the notes? Now, you might say, why would a log need to be 99,000 characters? To which I say, if your business is in the practice of copying and pasting emails, because that's what they want to have in there for record keeping in like servicing, or if you're in CTP draw management and you want to actually have the notes go in as an email copy paste, you can get to 99,000 pretty quick over the course of a year, which is how long CTP loans typically can last for. They can last up to a year. You try not to train to copy paste emails, like that's just silly in most cases. But the reason why I don't really care about it is because Encompass is big enough to handle 99,000 characters, especially if those characters are blank. What it's not able to do really well is the calc fields. So we know that in testing, we know that hands down, calc fields that fail or calc fields that run redundantly for no reason are a waste. So I would poke at the calc fields being a waste than anything else. Let's see what people are saying. So Candace says, I do agree that you need that many for a log, but even the log is what we call as SQL. All right, now you're getting all SQL on me, Candace. You're gonna lose me. But let's say so a log is what we call in SQL parlance as a memo field, which is allowed more than 255 characters. Okay, that's cool. John says we have a custom calc that creates a list of everything that's needed before generating e-disclosures. Our LOs love the fact that they have a list on the form to know what they need to disclose, but maintenance was a kind of a nightmare. Hey, John, wait a minute. So you created a visualized checklist that was dynamic based upon what was missing for the e-disclosures? That's what you did? Tell me more, please. Angela says, I think it comes down to the length taking up space on the server. Why do you care about the server, Angela? That's why you're paying ICE $1 million a year. Let them worry about the server. And by the way, while we're on the topics of server, remember that unless you call it out in your agreement with ICE, you're sharing your server. So guys, if you're spending some good money, please tell your business to advocate for your own independent server on the ICE thing. This is why, by the way, this is the reason why ICE is moving to AWS, because they got tired of dealing with independent server blades at their server farms. John, I'm going to go back to you in a second because John said correct that they did create this dynamic list. I want to hear more about that. Jody says, Jody, by the way, if you need anything Power BI, like seriously, get a hold of Jody. He's got the, Jody, put the website on there for you, please. If you want to know anything, Jody does a ton of things in the community. So thank you. If you're using Power BI, Jody does a lot of templates on there that you should definitely leverage. Jody's the man when it comes to that stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. simstech.dev, reports.simstech.dev. Check it out. So Jody says, I use a really long string field for a log. See, Candace, he uses it for logs too. Anyway, you don't need to learn Power BI. Well, maybe you do, but if anybody's interested in trying to get to a better visualizer, please check out the Bullseye EZ platform to get you going, or you can go to the full Bullseye piece where you can do the Power BI stuff. It's just a hell of a lot cheaper than Power BI. That's over at Bullseye EZ. Plug. So Jody says, user can change the field multiple times, and there's a lot of fields on the form. I run with the idea that max length is the minimum length that's possible. Jody's a true database. Jody's like, what's the threshold? And I want to go there as quickly as possible. So Jody, if you're driving in the speed limit 65, like you're never doing 64, right? It's always 65. I love it. I love it. So John says 70 if you're in Texas, 80 if you're in Arizona, right? Or is it 90? What is it in Arizona? Whoever lives in Arizona, isn't out in the desert like 150 or something? John, I really want to get back to you. So you're using the custom field to build a dynamic list. Are you still doing that? I'd love to hear more about that, because that thing must really be interesting to support as parameters change. Wow. I'd love to maybe some point next year we'll have you up and you can do an explanation. Andrew, you have one too? Guys, why? Help me understand this. Like with custom, I know we're talking about custom fields, but when it comes to custom fields, I think right away of requirements, right? And so we're talking about requirements. You call it data validation tool. That's totally cool. And is it the reason why, because you're not using milestones or other business logic to really help your teams? Your LOs are lazy. Well, maybe it's your input forms that are your problem. Maybe it's your workflow that needs to be better. I don't know if creating a field makes it less hard to realize what's missing. I don't know. It's a good conversation. I can tell you as a loan officer, which I was for 20 years, a lot of times it was hard to know what you were missing based upon some special kind of situation. So that's really why this dynamic list thing probably came about, right, Angie, for you, and probably for you too, John, where the business is like, dude, it's so complicated to look everywhere. Can't you just consolidate it into one place for us to make it easy? And you guys are like, yeah. I would have said no. I would have been like, no, let's use native stuff because I don't want to support this later. But you guys are all like, yeah, I'll do it. It's only prior disclosures. We have a custom quick app. Yeah, I'm cool with it. I was just talking to a company about this situation, and I'm like, let's put a disclosures ready milestone so they can visualize the missing fields and get out of their FDE rule situation. Because FDE rules suck, because you got to click it to know you're missing it, to click it to know you're missing it. It's terrible. So Angie says, why not put those required fields in field data? Did you mean FDE rule, like field data entry rule under the e-disclosure button? The exact reason why I just said. So the situation I'm talking about, they have 90 FDE rules. And you only know it's an FDE rule requirement, Angelo, when you go up and click the e-disclosure button and you get this message. Wouldn't it be easier to know that you knew it was missing before you click the button? The answer typically is yes. So John says ours was created based upon the fact that the loan officers needed to validate they have everything they need to generate e-disclosures. They have to clear the list, then hit a button which audits that they are ready to generate, and that frees the e-disclosure button. Yeah, and again, to me, John, because I'm not as talented by any stretch as you when it comes to building stuff, I call that a milestone worksheet in my head, because I want it to be dynamic enough to last forever, in that I want this list to come up, and then I could turn the fields blue if they're on input forms, or not. So that's just me being lazy, where I want it to be as easy as possible as the business constantly changes. That's just me being old and lazy and not wanting to keep building stuff and supporting stuff that's truthfully mostly native. So I did want to keep this conversation going, but I want to go into layering. And here, I want to bring something up on screen and show you what the hell I did with the request. So on screen right now is the code that Luba gave me. Luba gave me this. It wasn't as formatted as this, but this was the code. And so what's important to understand is that this little piece of code, in this particular case, rolls up 4 fields, and it rolls those 4 fields into one field. And this is layering. And this is a really big deal that I discovered as an admin very early on, and I've leveraged the crap out of this concept. When I'm looking at rules and forms and this, like maybe even this list thing, I'll actually segregate that list. And I don't know, John, if you and Angie did this, but I'll segregate that list into sections, which is exactly what I did here. I've got a credit report section. I've got an asset section. I've got an income section, and I've got a property section. You can go on and on, right? This makes it scalable. And so by doing that section, I can then have as many fields as I want, or a sub list of those fields that rolls up to this field. And then ultimately, Angie's like, hey, listen, I just support it. I didn't create it. I get you, Angie. Sorry. I didn't want to make it feel like I was calling you out, but thanks for clarifying. Thanks for clarifying that. So it's not on this for some reason, but basically all of these fields roll up into a larger field. So basically I'm building a pyramid of layering. And this is a big deal for scale. And this is a big deal for maintenance. So if the business were to come in and say, hey, listen, I want to add in 8 borrower credit reports, plus the non-purchasing spouse one here. To me, it's like, okay, whatever. It's no big deal. Like I could care less. I couldn't care less because it's easy for me to construct. So Candace says, I created several loan field summary worksheet forms to put on the field summary buttons in the milestone worksheets that contain the required fields needed for the milestone initial disclosures. The fields are also tied to FDE rules. I think that's a brilliant way to if I understand it properly, Candace, it's a brilliant way to create this layering thing, which is marvelous. I would encourage everybody who's listening to this, think about your own rules. And if you've got multiple rules ultimately leading to one event, that's a layer. And I would encourage you to make sure you structure your stuff that way, because as the business changes or grows or shrinks, right, or gets into new products, the more that you layer gives you the ability to change just one brick. Think about like a house, right? If you've ever seen a house built before all the siding goes up and it's framing, if one stud comes out or one piece of brick comes out, it's no big deal. The house doesn't fall. But all these things together build your foundation for ultimately what you're trying to accomplish. To me, it's the same thing. And when I look at custom fields, they, to me, are the little bricks that make up everything inside of Encompass. Everything is a field. So Candace adds, I did what she described in an effort to make sure those required fields were showing up as blue, like they're visually colored versus relying on the native milestone completion rules. And that's fine. Again, that's fine too. If you're using the custom field and you wanted to color it red because you didn't like the blue, those kinds of things, because you want to use a custom input form. I do the same thing on the comparison forms, right? So I've shown you those comparison forms as a community before, same concept. Do what works well for your business. Do what works well for your team. The only thing I would say is if you're using color, just remember there are people who are color challenged, people who don't see colors the same way you do. My father-in-law is one of them. He can't see red. To him, everything looks gray. And so just keep that in mind when it comes to coloring. Not everybody sees the same thing the same way. A good example of this is if you go to Encompass on the web admin and you look at your Encompass Partner Connect providers, the coloring on whether or not they do manual, easy order, or automated is extraordinarily hard to discern. So just as a good example, like I was looking at it today, and it was like, wow, that is really hard to tell what's enabled or not. Now, if you hover over it, there's a little icon that represents, but it's hard to see it. So Jody says, we do what you have described. It's important to remember the order at which they can happen. So in other words, the order of operations. Thank you, Jody. It's critically important, especially in database land, right? So each layer has to roll into the next one up logically. The older I get, the more time I spend on making something easier later instead of doing something easy up front. Hey, gang, I subscribe to that. I'm telling you right now, maintenance is everything. And if you plan on retiring next year, then don't give a crap, unless you care about somebody behind you. But if, like, I know I've got at least 20 years left in the industry, and everything I'm doing is so that when I come back to this 10 years from now, A, I know I did it. B, I know why I did it. And then C, I can still kind of fix it. So Candace adds, I found on HTML color coding sites that displays differences for 4 of the most common color blindness. Well, that's really awesome. And I've recolored most of them. Hey, Candace, please share that on the community. I don't think anybody else has done that. I know I haven't. And I think that would be great if you shared that with which colors are easiest for color blindness folks to still see color. I guess that's the way I interpret that. Hey, the last thing I want to say is if you didn't know this, oh, thanks, Candice. Yeah, share the site URL. That'd be phenomenal. The last thing I want to share is if you go in, and in case I don't know what everybody knows, but if you were to come in and you wanted the borrower's last name from the second 1003 set, it's #2. Right, #2 4002. Thank you. How does that look? That's wrong. No, wait, I've gone completely stupid. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I knew that looked wrong. Oh, yeah. Caffeine's wearing off. So make sure you do that, or #3, #4, right? Make sure that you understand that there is such a thing as a #1. I came across this when I was working with Logan Sargent over at Kenzie May. We had some issues, and Encompass didn't understand that we wanted the first 1003 set when we were on the second 1003 set. So sometimes, as crazy as this sounds, if you want to force in the value of any 1003 set when you're on a subsequent 1003 set, you might have to do something like this, where even you might have to call out like a #1. So just keep that in mind. On the links here, Coloring for Color Blindness, the interactive visual guide. Candace, thanks very much for bringing that up. So that's on screen here. And so keep that in mind. That's really, really thoughtful. Thanks for doing that, Candace. That's something I didn't even think was, I didn't think about it. So I've talked about it a lot, but I've never known what to do about it. So thank you. Scroll down, it's interactive. Like where here? They keep scrolling. Accessible palettes, these guys. So IBM, and this is the wrong way. How about that? Read this whole thing. I don't want to, thank you. Yeah, Candace, this is awesome. Thank you very much for doing this. I know a lot of folks will be happy understanding how to do this more. So That's all I got for custom fields. This conversation has been really, really good. Just below the first grid, you can enter the colors you're planning to use. Here? Is that what you do here? Candace, this hex right here? I don't know what to use. Is that a real hex code? It's a real hex code. So then what? I do that, and then it tells me if it fails. I have to read it. We're up on time. I'll do some more energy on this. Click the reset button to reset all defaults. Oh, read these instructions right here and do something about it and make sure people can see your damn colors, especially if you use a pipeline highlighter. Gang, this has been awesome. I try to keep these 30 minutes. I have no idea what I'm talking about on Tuesday, but I look forward to finding out which role we're talking about next. And then everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the fall, flowers, go get your pumpkin spice. And for goodness sake, get ready for Christmas decorations if you live in certain households. Good luck, everybody. It puts the color on the bottom of that grid. Oh, it puts right here? Okay. I got to figure that out. I'm on the spot. I'll figure it out, Candace. I'm on the spot, though. GBR. Guys, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming, and I hope you get some value from this. And keep the conversation going on. Go Big Red. Katie says go Big Red. I don't know. I'm just sad that the Cowboys lost to the Eagles. That was a good game. Anyway, take care, everybody. Have a good day. Thanks for coming. Who are the Cowboys? All right, we have to ban Katie. Katie's not allowed to come back to these meetings anymore. See you now. Bye.